Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Saturday, May 25th at the time of this recording, although by the time many of you are listening to this, it'll be Sunday, May 26th. Hopefully everybody is enjoying their Memorial Day weekend. Exciting weekend for anybody. Start of summer, kind of the kickoff to summer, and really another day, another weekend closer to football Sundays, football Thursdays, Mondays, whatever you enjoy during the football season. And two, another step closer to the summer, which is always an exciting time, as well as training camp will start up here, about 2 months from now, late July, early August. You got OTAs in full swing right now. You got mandatory mini camp starting up here in a couple weeks in June. So the off season's really starting to come to a close as some of the off season programs start to ramp up and we get closer and closer to training camp. And then, of course, the preseason shortly after that. So it's crazy. We're almost into June. This actually, I think, is the last podcast of May, which is wild to think
Yes,
because it's the 25th, right? 31st is what? Thursday? Is that Thursday?
I
Something like
believe
that.
so.
Yeah. So yeah, because June 1st is Saturday. So yeah, crazy to think that we are already here at the end of May, which is exciting to be a football fan. So DiMari, a lot to discuss today, all things OTAs and everything happening around the NFL. How's it going, man?
I'm pretty good. Like you said, we are getting closer to football. I know we are very excited for September. We're kind of looking for first week of regular season NFL, but
Mhm.
as you know, we're wrapping up May, going into June. I'm just thinking first things first, college football week 0
Yeah,
starting
that's
late
true.
August. So football is a lot closer than we think. I'm really excited to just finally get back in full swing of football. But let's discuss some OTAs, some things going on around the league as of today.
Yeah, you make a good point about week 0 college football is the best because it's still like summer, it's still that August, and you kind of have that week of some football in a way, like meaningful football in the summer, which is awesome. And then of course, September rolls around and the real thing starts. But yeah, it's always an exciting time of year. And the weather is nice. Optimism for every fan base, especially this week with OTAs. If you were feeling not great about your team, usually you walk out of the first week of OTAs feeling great about your team because watching guys in shorts do things is usually going to boost your confidence. And if it doesn't boost their comments, then I'm sorry, you might not win a game this year. So um, we'll get into it, all of it. But let's, without further ado, let's dive right into it. So there's a lot of receiver news going on right now across the NFL. With some guys absent at OTAs this weekend or this past week. Now, again, these are optional, so it's not crazy alarming. But it is still something to keep an eye on as mandatory minicamp opens up soon. And then, of course, training camp shortly after that. And we've seen a lot of times, especially at the receiver position, guys hold out deals well into training camp. So we'll start with one of the biggest ones. And actually, the reason he's not at OTAs is because he hasn't signed his franchise tender yet. And that's T. Higgins. Really kind of one of the more interesting stories throughout the NFL offseason because it felt like for a while there, when he first got tagged, he requested the trade and it felt like they were going to trade him as time was done. And then you kind of also got the feeling that they were never going to trade him. And then it's kind of just reached an impasse where neither side's really do anything. He's not signing the franchise tag. It doesn't seem like they're actively shopping him. Like the Bengals want to keep him. T. Higgins doesn't want to stay there. It's a bad spot. So what was your thoughts on the T. Higgins news?
I don't think he's going to be in a Cincinnati Bengal uniform kind of throughout next year, or what I'm trying to say is throughout the entire season. I feel like he's eventually probably going to get traded. I don't know if that is going to be this later portion of the regular off season or early on in the regular season, but I just feel like they're beyond the point of where they can fix that relationship. Kind of very similar to Stephon Diggs in Buffalo, where you were just so far beyond repair. The best bet is just like, let's move on. Like, I don't think Higgins is getting moved for a few picks, and Cincinnati gets nothing back. One of the best wide receivers in the game, arguably a wide receiver one on maybe 24 teams in the NFL. So for T. Higgins, I mean, I know he wants his money, and I know Cincinnati probably wants to keep him there, but I just don't see it happening. I honestly think we will see him in a different uniform sometime throughout next season, if not during the offseason.
Yeah, the Stephon Diggs comparison is really good because it just feels like this relationship, this marriage in a way, if you want to call it that, has become rotten. He was drafted, 4 years ago, 2020 draft, which was, of course, a big one for the Bengals. And um, he's been very good, has had, back-to-back 1,000-yard campaigns in 2021, 2022, was excellent last year, but people forget he only played 12 games. That's why some of the numbers look lower because he missed a lot of time. If he plays the full season last year, has another year of over 1,000 yards. And that's the biggest thing is the Bengals don't want to pay him wide receiver one money. He wants wide receiver one money. And that's what he's going to look for in the new team that he goes to if he gets dealt. But it's a tough spot for Cincy because and we'll get into this, I guess, as the season gets closer. We'll do like our official divisional predictions. But you look at the Bengals, as much as I really like Joe Burrow, and we all know what Jamar Chase is capable of, I don't know if I could say that the Bengals have actually, in a division this year or this offseason, in a division that has kind of gone better. Pittsburgh, you feel like got better. You feel like Baltimore, you feel like they're either got better or they're kind of the same, which is if they are even the same, that's a team that's more than capable of going to a Super Bowl. And you have Cleveland, who is, an interesting team, but they'll get Chubb back. The biggest question is at quarterback. But it feels like Cleveland didn't really lose much. They've kind of stayed normal, and that's a playoff roster. Cincy, though, would you agree? I feel like Cincy, especially if they lose T. Higgins, they've gone significantly worse because they also lost Joe Mixon. They also got rid of him. And outside of Jamar Chase, then Tyler Boyd was left in free agency. If you move on from T. Higgins, it's Jamar Chase and what? A rookie and Jermaine Burton?
Yeah, you're making a great point, which kind of really just popped in my head as we were talking about Higgins, because we spent a lot of time, a lot of shows talking about a Buffalo team. And I know it feels like we're always talking about Buffalo, but what I'm trying to say here is like we spent a lot of time talking about a Buffalo team that seen their championship window close because they were making some moves that were questionable. And Cincy has been another one of those teams. I mean, you were in the Super Bowl, AFC Championship. Obviously, your quarterback can't stay healthy, but when Burrow is healthy, you are one of the better teams in the NFL. You are a playoff lock, and you're a very respected team. And like you just said, you lose Joe Mixon, T. Higgins wants out, Trey Hendrickson wants out, who we haven't even spoken about yet. But
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd is gone, so now, like you just said, it's T. Higgins and Jermaine Burton, which that's just not enough, especially for Joe Burrow. And I mean, I know they brought Zach Moss over to be the starter, but they kind of just offensively they've downgraded almost at every position, it seems like. And I don't really understand what they're doing. I think they are another team where like their window is definitely closed. I don't even see them finishing positive. Just at the rate that it's going right now, it's hard to see them finish positive.
Yeah, it is. And they've kind of flown under the radar this year as a team that's gotten significantly, I guess, worse in a way. From where they were last year. I mean, you're losing Tyler Boyd's a very underrated loss. Tyler Boyd is, we talked about him a lot on the show, what he brings to the table. One of the better Bengals receivers of all time. When you look at some of his numbers, where they rank, I think they all rank receptions, yards, touchdowns. I think they all rank like top 10, top 7 in Bengals history. And then now if you lose T. Higgins and you lose your starting running back, so you lose your 2 and 3 receivers, you lose your starting running back, and it's not like you replenished that really. I mean, Jermaine Burton, I get he's a third round pick, solid player. Looked into him a little bit, so watched some of his highlights and tape and stuff because he was a target the Jets could have potentially looked at. But deep receiver class, could be a gem, could be a find, but you never know. It's still a third round pick, and it's T. Higgins. I mean, I don't know if you're going to be able to fill the shoes of T. Higgins right away. So yeah, it's a really interesting spot for Cincy. Where do you think potentially Higgins could land? I mean, that's the thing with Higgins is we talked about it off air, just from a Jet perspective. Like I hear a lot of Jets, potentially the Jets looking into him, which I would love that. It would take a lot, but I don't know if Higgins would be happy here because he wants to be a number one receiver. If he comes to the Jets, he's not going to get paid number one money. He's not going to be a number one receiver. That's Garrett Wilson's spot. Jacksonville, maybe. I know you mentioned that off air. any other destinations. I think if he would to get dealt to Jacksonville, he'd instantly be their number one. He's better than Christian Kirk. He's better than Gabe Davis.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think Jacksonville would be a great fit for him just
mhm,
because Kirk is there, Gabe Davis is there, and that'll be a help for Trevor Lawrence, who is looking
yeah,
for an extension as well. So that will help boost him, and I think kind of give that offense that missing piece at receiver that they thought Calvin Ridley was going to be able to kind of fill in. But if not Jacksonville, another one we saw talked about off air was the Chargers, and I mean,
yeah,
instantly will be wide receiver one. I honestly believe they do have enough money to do it, and then you give Justin Herbert somebody that is more reliable than what he has over there now, because those guys are very unproven. And I know they drafted Brendan Rice and they got Lat McConkey, but like you still need a vet, a proven vet that can kind of step in and be a role model for these younger guys and the Josh Palmers, the backups. So the Chargers would honestly be a great fit, but for T. Higgins, and I know we talked about this like a long time ago, when we were kind of trying to understand his mindset, is it, hey, I want to win and I want to get paid, or is it just like I don't really care too much about winning, just give me my money? And if that is the case for him, where he just cares about the money, the Chargers would probably be the best fit for him.
yeah. It's a great point you make. It's interesting because yeah, he hasn't. I mean, if he's all about winning, you'd stay in Cincy. You would suck it up, stay in Cincy, wait for your contract, and potentially get the opportunity to go compete for a Super Bowl. Because if Higgins is on this Bengals team, him and Jamar Chase, when healthy, when out there, playing their best, are one of the better 1-2 punches at receiver in the NFL. So they can beat anybody at any time. We saw 2 years ago, like you mentioned earlier, when they got to the Super Bowl. Yeah, the Chargers. I'm glad you brought that up. Chargers not really a team I thought about much, but yeah, I mean, because Josh Palmer too in LA, he's a solid 2 or 3 receivers, not a number one. So he would slot into that role that he fits into. You would get your number one receiver, like you said, you would get a veteran into a room. And then Quentin Johnson would fall into like that third, fourth role. You would have McConkey. You can kind of have McConkey and Johnson, I guess, fight it out. Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden you put Higgins into there, it doesn't look as
That's
bad as
bad.
it does now because right now it's an eyesore. It's not pretty. Justin Herbert, I know, would take it. He would. I mean, you wonder if he's already gone up to Harbaugh and said, "Please do whatever it takes. Get me T Higgins because I need him."
They have the money, and I think that would be great form. Kind of similar player to Mike Williams as well. So you're getting I guess you would
Yeah,
say, younger Mike Williams, who has more reliability, more longevity, because Higgins is on the field a lot more. So I don't think it hurts to try it.
yeah, yeah. Definitely, it would help a ton. And you know, I mean, with the way that division is, you would assume T Higgins gets traded there, right? He would probably automatically become the second best receiver in that division, right? Only behind Devontae Adams.
100%.
I mean, yeah. Unless if Xavier Worthy turns out to be like Tyreek Hill, but that's something that we're not going to probably know right away this year. Chiefs luck he will be, but hopefully, hopefully it's a slow development so the rest of the NFL can actually, not have to deal with another Tyreek Hill. Either way, let's move on here. Next topic regarding the receivers. We can kind of combine these two together. One of them, Brandon Ayuk, waiting on a new deal still, and the other, Justin Jefferson, waiting on a new deal. Now, Justin Jefferson seems like any day now, he's just going to break the bank, and it's going to be a contract that's it's just going to be one of these contracts that you're going to look at, and you're not going to have many words for it. So I guess we'll start with him because it seems like he's closer to a deal. It feels like something's cooking over there in Minnesota with him getting a monster contract. But what are your thoughts on Jefferson? Do you believe it's negotiations? Do you believe it's, you know, whatever it is? Do you believe something close? And I mean, he is going to break the bank.
Well, before I even get on to Jefferson, there's one name we did not mention, NFC, which is CD Lamb. So I'm going to tie all three of
Yep.
those together. With Jefferson, I'm honestly not too sure. I remember the reports last year where he didn't want to sign an extension until there was kind of a sense of I don't know well, basically he wanted the Vikings to just, I guess you can say security, essential security at the
Yeah.
quarterback position before he signed an extension, and obviously we kind of seen how it went with Kirk Cousins. So Jefferson now it kind of seems like he's like, well, I'm not signing because I don't know. First, we don't know who the starter is going to be. Is it going to be McCarthy? Is it going to be Darnold? I don't want to be here for the long term if I'm going to be in a situation where the guy throwing me the ball, isn't really helping me out. So for Jefferson, I kind of feel like it's more just waiting around to see who's going to be the quarterback to start the season off, and if there's any chemistry, if they can kind of gel together before he puts pen to paper. But for the
Yeah.
other two, Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb, I think both of them are waiting for Jefferson to get their money and try to get somewhere around the same. I did see a report that Ayuk wanted like 30 million a year, so Lamb and Jefferson, I think, are definitely going to top that. We're talking 35 and plus if Ayuk is getting 30, and it's not a shot at Ayuk, just those guys are better in my eyes than Ayuk is. So I kind of feel like it's kind of be one of those things where let's sit back and wait and see. If Jefferson signs his, then Lamb and Ayuk go to their agent and try to get a certain set of money. Or if Lamb gets his, then the other two are kind of just like, all right, he got that. This is what I want. So it's really kind of a thing. I feel like they're sitting around just all at a round table and just like, let's see who signs for the less money and let's go top their contract.
Yeah. Yeah, you make a really good point. It's kind of he's going to reset the market, and it's going to be a good teller to where Ayuk and CeeDee Lamb feel they will stand after that. You know, luckily, it's funny because you even look like the Jared Goff contract. It's funny how the quarterbacks, everybody's like, Daniel Jones is making $40 million a year, so you better give me this. Luckily, with the receivers, it's not like the Eagles gave Jalen Reagor a massive 4-year deal, and everyone's like, look at what he's making. Now you got to give me this. At least it's a legitimate number one best receiver in the game, or arguably the best. I mean, I think some people probably think Tyreek Hill. I mean, when healthy, Justin Jefferson's hands down the best receiver in football, but in my opinion. But yeah, I mean, he's gonna break the bank, and it's you make a good point about the Kirk Cousins stuff, the clarity at quarterback. That could go into this as well because you're not gonna want to sign a massive extension and have to deal with JJ McCarthy, cough cough, Zach Wilson 2.0, let's say, over the next 3 seasons, where he's gonna get the Garrett Wilson treatment and be wide open and never get targeted. Or is it Darnold? It's interesting, It's just I feel like it's the worst possible time he could be looking at a contract is during a quarterback competition. It's
Yeah.
just it's very inconvenient for him and the franchise because there's not much clarity at quarterback, and when you get clarity, you still don't know if Darnold and McCarthy are going to be able to produce enough. So it's definitely interesting. You think Ayuk? Because every once in a while, you always hear a report or you always see a rumor, even though John Lynch said that they're not shopping him anymore. But you think if the negotiations just completely stall and there's no deal done, that maybe we see Ayuk still end up being dealt, despite what kind of seemed like Lynch denying, or not denying, but saying they ended those conversations, I'd say about a month ago after the draft. I still feel like if there's not a deal done, I could still see Ayuk being dealt, especially if, let's say, there's a training camp injury to a really good receiver. Because unfortunately, the way football is, there's always an injury during the summer that causes somebody else that needs to be picked up. I feel like if Ayuk doesn't get a deal done, let's say, and there's like a number one receiver out there that goes down, that team could get desperate and go after Ayuk. You see that being a possibility where he still doesn't maybe end up being a Niner?
Yeah, I think so. And I think the fact that someone getting hurt in training camp is a kind of great idea to think of because I didn't even think about that. I'm kind of just on the wave of like a business is a business. So they can say I'm
Yeah.
not going to trade you and then you end up getting traded. But 100%, if somebody gets hurt, I can see someone getting desperate, especially if there's somebody that's a competitor or, they're competing for a Super Bowl. Just say like I don't know, I'm gonna try like a Baltimore or somebody. I know probably won't
Mhm.
happen, but just say something like that where number one goes down and you're just like, look, we need a receiver bad. Like we are right there. I can see him getting shipped to somewhere if it doesn't work out. I think that's a great point that you bring up.
Yeah, it's definitely something to keep an eye on. And I mean, I wouldn't be complaining because it means that we don't have to match up against him week 1. So by all means, San Francisco, you want to trade him, go ahead and deal him. Just do not deal him to the Buffalo Bills. That's all I ask. I'd rather play him week 1 than have to play him twice a year. So either way, yeah, a lot of receiver noise around the NFL with contracts to Justin Jefferson, contract or not even contract, trade situation with T. Higgins, and then of course more contract stuff with Brandon Ayuk. Now, one guy that Dan Campbell spoke about this week, Jameson Williams, who he believes he improved. He said he, quote, improved everywhere this offseason. He also went on to say he's a man on a mission. I'm just going to leave it at that. Jameson Williams, I think, is a guy that has kind of flown under the radar throughout, his first couple of years. Unfortunately, things haven't quite gone the way that, he expected. But this is a guy that I think people are kind of sleeping on in a way, you feel like. Somebody that last year you saw, I mean, even just in the NFC title game with that touchdown he had, the 2 touchdowns he had, you kind of saw that ability where he could just be a game breaker and he can legitimately turn into that 12th overall pick that he was in 2022. Do you believe Dan Campbell's comments will come true? And I'll say this, if Jameson Williams is like he was in college and he's fully ready to go full healthy this year, I mean, this is a guy that Amon-Ra St. Brown and a dominant Jameson Williams. I mean, man, that's going to be tough to beat.
Yeah, I hope he finds success every week besides week 6.
Yeah.
Other than that, I hope he has a great season because I do think he's going to have a breakout year. I personally watched him when thinking of that Dallas game, kind of seeing what he was doing to Dallas as far as that deep ball threat of what he can do. And like you said, NFC Championship game, and obviously his time at Bama, he can obviously just take the top off of defense. I think he's finally starting to come around, and Dan Campbell is one trying to build his confidence, but two, obviously he's seeing something every day in practice. So I think you said it perfectly. Amon-Ra and Jameson Williams just 75%, 80% of what he was at Alabama. The NFL will be in trouble, and the Lions will be playing in the Super Bowl if everyone is healthy. If Jameson Williams is just close to what he was in college, because that is a dangerous receiving core and just a team with a lot of speed.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, it's funny when Detroit. It's kind of funny how the roles reverse. When Detroit drafted Jameson Williams, they felt like they were getting that dominant number 1 receiver. But when they drafted Amon-Ra St. Brown, it just like that wasn't what they drafted him in the 4th round. That was the furthest thing from their expectations. So it's kind of crazy. It just shows you how the draft pans out sometimes. How if you would have told me the Lions would have drafted a 4th round receiver in 2021 and then the year later draft a 1st round receiver, yeah, I would be like, yeah, that 1st round receiver goes on to be their number 1, and here we are. But yeah, I mean, James Williams turns in, like you said, even just 80% of what he was at Bama, and you see the flashes, and I think that's what's so crazy, or just what's so eye-popping about all this and why you could see it come true is because you saw the flash, like you said, against Dallas. You saw it, as you mentioned, in the title game, both rushing and receiving in that game. So, Detroit was already tough to beat, and they would become not impossible because anybody can be beat, but they would become, I mean, just miserable to play against. If you have to, the speed those guys bring, they both complement each other really well. So yeah, something to look out for Detroit. Another dangerous Detroit team. Crazy Detroit. All
6 years ago is just, if you told me Detroit would be just thought of as a
yeah,
front runner, I would probably have you like go check into a
yeah.
mental home or something. But Detroit is the truth.
If
They
you would have
are the
told me,
truth.
yeah, if you would have told me, like you said, 6 years ago, or even just 3 years ago, when Dan Campbell's first year, what they won 3 games, I think it
Yeah,
was, right?
they were bad.
And if you would have told me Detroit, Houston would be like the 2 teams that everyone's potentially picking to go to the Super Bowl, yeah, I would have done the same thing. I would have told you, never watch football again. You do not know ball, and leave. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. It is crazy what has happened. And then I stand as a Jet fan. you have all these other incompetent franchises starting to find ways to win, and I'm still sitting here looking for just 10 wins. So,
It's
it's
all
not
right.
about me. Football's not fair. The NFL is not fair.
Tell me about it. I've been a Dallas fan my whole life,
Yeah.
so I get it. I
Sports
understand.
fandom's just not fair. It's just
Yeah.
not. See, it's ridiculous. Either way, here we are. Yeah, it's crazy. Crazy to think. Who else? I mean, do we see like a? That's why I feel like Carolina fans, be patient. We're gonna get to Bryce Young in a second, but do you feel like the Panthers in like 3 years, they're gonna draft a quarterback, they're gonna get the right coach, and they're gonna be a 13-win team, and all of a sudden, Carolina, we're gonna look back at them like we look back on Houston and Detroit. And it's gonna be like, remember 3 years ago when there was 100 people going to the games, and you could tickets were basically under $1. And it was like, it's cheaper to buy tickets than cheaper to get gas, basically. And it was like,
Absolutely not.
remember those
I
days?
think, yeah, well, you can get,
The NFL
you,
script writers, I mean, I don't know.
I don't know.
They
Right
can
now,
get
it's kind
crazy.
of that situation for the Panthers is like $8 tickets. It's like, do I go to this Panthers game
I know.
or do I
It's
go to like Raising Cane's and get a meal or something?
Yeah,
That's
you
where it's
make a
kind
good
of
point.
at
It's
with the
like, what way
Panthers.
do I
But
want to use my $8? Because that's a valuable $8. That's a hard-earned 9 to 5 shift $8. You want to
like I
spend
can
it on Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers? I'd probably go Raising Cane's because at least
and
you
get
can
it
watch the game and get Cane's. It's like
exactly.
all you
You can
get
get
with
Canes
yeah
and then go home and watch the game
game
instead
as
of going
opposed
to the
to
game and then
watching
paying
Bryce Young, no Cane's.
no Canes and paying $37 for tenders and a drink at the
Yeah,
Panther Stadium.
yeah, they jack up that and about $20 for a beer.
Ridiculous.
I mean, there has to be Panthers fans. Those beer, I mean, it's funny. I saw this tweet out the other day, or not a tweet. It was like an article. They ranked all like NFL fan bases, how much money they spend on various stuff. Jets fans, it's funny, they spent the most on alcohol, which I'm not surprised. I mean, they probably go through about 8 beers a game. Like the average Jet fan, they just, week one, most of them were probably Aaron Rodgers goes down, immediately got up. There was probably people there that immediately got up once Rodgers went down and went and bought 5 beers at once. And they're just like, you know what? I need to watch Zach Wilson hammered. I cannot watch Zach Wilson normal. I'm sure there was people out there.
I mean, now Zach is in Colorado, and there's other things legal in Colorado. So,
That is
I
true.
mean, you're gonna need quite a few things to
Broncos
watch
fans are
Zach
ready. They
Wilson.
they should be prepared. There's no excuse.
Yeah, that's they. I guess you can say they can double it up if they want to go get a few beers and whatever else outside the stadium before watching Zach Wilson. They got the freedom to do so because they're
Zach
going to
Wilson
need
probably
it
does that. Zach Wilson will probably take part in pregame festivities because the way he plays quarterback, it looks like he's
a
way
little
off his rocking
under
chair.
the influence.
Yeah.
Some of his
Yeah, we'll just leave it
decisions a
at that.
little under the influence
His
for
decision
Zach.
making is definitely something that is under the influence. um, all right, now moving on here to the quarterbacks. Talk about the receivers. You can now move on to the quarterbacks. We'll start with Dak. We'll start with your Cowboys. Dak Prescott went out the other day and said, I don't play for money when asked about his contract talks. What was your thoughts on that comment? And also, Dak reunited with Zeke this week at OTAs.
Well, as far as Dak, I mean, I believe him that he's not playing for money. And I know we've talked about it jokingly, and you just said it not too long ago. But for anybody, any quarterback from here on out, it's like Daniel Jones is making 40 mil. I need at least 8 mil more than what Daniel Jones is making. I think that's kind of what Dak is under. So I don't see him wanting a nice extension, especially with the year that he just had. And honestly, I know the weapons are kind of loaded on that roster, but without Dak, that is a 6 or 7 win team every single year. So I think he deserves his money. I hope he does get his money. And hopefully this is not the last dance. So I don't really think he's looking to reset the bank, but I think it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, I'm a proven winner. I know people are gonna bring up the postseason, but playoff wins, Super Bowl wins, wins in general are a team stat that does not come down to the quarterback and quarterback only. So for Dak and the Cowboys, I mean, Jerry Jones, everyone else, pay the man his money. He deserves it. But I am
Yeah.
excited to see him and Zeke back together. Like we kind of said when he first re-signed, I was kind of getting the dust off my 21 jersey. I don't remember. I don't know if you remember when Peter Parker kind of got rid of his black suit and he had his regular one. And he kind of held it up.
Oh yeah.
That was me with my 21 Zeke jersey. And then they come out and he's like, "Oh, he's wearing 15." So it's like, all right, well, Jerry knows what he's doing for business. That 15 jersey is going to feed families for this entire year. But
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it. I hope we can just get kind of similar to what Zeke was last year, towards the later end of New England, where he looked like his early rookie, second, third year self, where he's catching pass out the backfield and he's hurdling. But game one, that home opener, Zeke comes out with that crop top and he
Yeah.
out of the locker room. I can't wait, but I'm excited to see what them two kind of put together this year.
Yeah, definitely. See if you get the vintage 2018, 2017, 2016
Yeah.
Zeke. I mean, that would be 20. Those Cowboys teams with Zeke and Dak, they were so much fun to watch, especially 2016. Their first year in right 20, right?
Yeah. 16.
This first year.
Yep.
Yep. First year, they were just so dominant. Zeke, like you said, the feed me. I really thought that like era was gonna be their moment, but fortunately did not.
Until Byron Jones, third and 15 was like, oh, Aaron Rodgers is like he
Yeah.
might rush for these 17 yards, but instead of just dump off to Jared Cook, and we know how the rest of that went. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, Aaron Rodgers, please do that this year against the Chiefs in the AFC title game. The script. I got the script. Yeah, no, yeah, I like Dak. I think Dak, we've said all the time, Dak gets so much hate for stuff that's kind of out of control with Dallas. Just as Dallas, when you're a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys, you're going to get a lot of hate. You're going to have a lot of pressure, especially when, you're not winning the rings and what people expect, a Super Bowl every year out of you. The drought's gotten longer and all that stuff. But Dak's the furthest thing from the Cowboys' problems, the problems that they have or has slowed them down. I think it'll be interesting to see what his future is like in Dallas, if this is it, truly it, or I mean, what do you think? Like, out of, I guess, optimism level, how long that Dak is here for longer?
I think they extend him maybe 4 to 5 years, but if they don't, I can tell you there will be a lot of unhappy people in the fan base, and there will be a point in the next few years where we are seeing $8 cowboy tickets. That is
They're
what I'm
gonna go in the
believing.
opposite direction.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad if Dak leaves. I mean, again, like I said, 6 or 7 wins without him, you can't tell me any differently. I don't care how good the defense is. Just even the last few years where we've seen no Dak, and you had like Andy Dalton in there, and you had Cooper Rush in there. A bunch of different guys where the team looked so much different. The offense looked so much different without him, and you kind of just you need a guy like Dak who was loved throughout the community, loved throughout the locker room. So if Dallas doesn't extend him, well, get ready to learn 4 and 13 every year because it's gonna be bad.
Get ready to learn Chinese, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, or get ready to learn CFL, buddy. That's always a good one too. Um, yeah, it's yeah, I agree. Dak, they got to keep him. You got to keep him around. At some point they'll find a way to get over the hump, I believe, with Dak. Um, when that is, who knows? They've got, he's obviously got CeeDee Lamb, who's looking for a new contract. Ideally, you want to keep them two together for 4 to 5 more years. That's best case scenario. That's your best chance to win. So definitely something to keep an eye on. But I've always thought Dak just got a unreasonably amount of hate, and I know some people that have, some of my friends that I know, like I just don't know how people. I don't know. It's just you're a quarterback of the Dallas Cowboys. You're going to get the hate. But I never understood people that if you say Dak's a top 10 quarterback, it's like, people are like, "Oh, what are you doing? How dare you call him a top 10 quarterback?" It's like, what? And then you try and ask people, all right, name off 10 quarterbacks better than Dak Prescott, and you can't. It's tough to name 5 or 7 quarterbacks better than Dak.
You know, it
You know,
it's
and that's
just
it's the way it is. That's
it's
the
kind
fact.
of
And
like my
yeah,
favorite thing where you kind of ask people, or people ask me like, okay, what makes Dak a top 10 quarterback? And I'll tell them, I start naming off the stats, and they're like, "Oh, well, the stats don't matter. What does he do in the regular
yeah,
season?" And I'm like, "Okay, give me a guy." And oh, Justin Herbert. Okay, why Justin Herbert? Because he throws for this many yards, this many,
yeah.
but the stats don't matter. You just told me that. And what has he done in the postseason? So it's kind of one of those things where there's really no legit
He blew
reason
it.
to hate Dak. It's just
Yeah,
the helmet. And yes, I'll finish
yeah,
that. He blew a 27-point lead in the
yeah,
playoffs where you kind of needed maybe 2 6-minute drives, maybe a field
yeah.
goal, and but
Check down pass, something like that.
let's not say too much on Herbert. The NFL loves him, and we kind of want our show to keep going year round. So let's
Yeah,
be safe, not
yeah.
slander him.
The NFL, they can't. Yeah. And yeah, and that's a point we've mentioned this so many times on the show, but people want to talk about the playoffs. All right, what has Josh Allen done in the playoffs? I understand Dak. I get it all. Dak hasn't been good enough in the playoffs. The results aren't there. Totally agree. But neither of the other guys. Lamar Jackson, what has he done in the playoffs? What is, Josh Allen? We talked about him. Talked about Herbert. Um, Burrow and Mahomes are really the only one. And then two, Stroud. I mean, year one winning a playoff game is huge, but at some point too, he's gonna have to get over, the mountaintop.
Yep.
It's the same argument too, just Rodgers. I guess we could shift into him next, but everyone always talks about Rodgers like, oh, he only has one Super Bowl. He doesn't do anything in the playoffs, which it's a fair argument. He's lost some bad NFC title games, but I mean, I don't know. It's tough. It's tough to say. Like you said, it's the star in the helmet. That's what it is. It's not so much the quarterback. If Dak played for the Buffalo Bills, people would love him. That's just the way it is.
If
Anyway,
anyone
yeah,
else, he would be
he would
just
be
the
loved,
face of
dude. If
the
he was,
face of the league.
yeah, if he was like, imagine if he was, I don't know, Buffalo, or even just, I don't know, what's like another smaller organization that if Dak got there, wasn't a high draft pick, and turned out to be something special, even if it was like, let's say Cleveland maybe, or even
That's a
Houston,
good
let's
one.
say, if Houston maybe took a chance on somebody and he was able to get him out of that. Well, I mean, it would be different because he was drafted back not recently. Anybody, yeah, I mean, you name any other NFL team, Dak would not be
Yeah,
hated.
somewhere like Jacksonville, where he's kind of
Yeah,
just
that's a good
say
one.
has had this same career, kind of down to the T, every
Yep.
single year, and everyone they'll love him. Like he'll probably be like the face of the franchise or face of the league, MVP voting every single type of year, like every year. It's just, I guess that's the thing of being a Cowboys quarterback. If you're not perfect, then you're trash, according to social media and the experts.
Yeah, experts. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Anyway, totally agree. Dak stuff it's always been that way. Will be that way until he ultimately, if he wins a Super Bowl. And I feel like there will still probably be social media trolls that don't get off their phone and are just on the burner accounts 24/7. That'll probably say something about him. That'll say it's like a
Yeah.
Mickey Mouse title or whatever. So they'll never go away. Anyway, we can move on here to Rodgers. Go on over to the Jets now. He is full participation at OTAs, no limitations. So after tearing his Achilles 4 snaps into the season, of course, came back early last year to practice and stuff. He's now fully out there, ready to go. You've seen him, seen a lot of clips of him throwing past the Garrett Wilson and stuff like that. So as a Jet fan, you get excited. But again, expectations tempered. It's only shorts. So you don't want to get too excited. But just good to see him out there. Good to see him back throwing guys again, and hopefully just stays healthy for the whole season. What was your thoughts on the Rodgers stuff and what he could potentially bring to the table?
Yeah, I'm happy to see it, and I really want to talk about this topic because we talked about Rodgers last week, and people kind of saying he was never going to be the same, won't recover,
Yeah.
and just some things we kind of didn't talk about last week on the topic was the fact I think it was like 6 or 8 weeks or something. I mean, the man was throwing the football again and walking without
Mm-hmm.
a walking boot, like he was way ahead of recovery. So I'm glad he's back so I can again push my Jets to win the division agenda. People look at me stupid when I say that. "Oh, what about the Dolphins? What about the Dolphins? They don't have Aaron Rodgers." So again, I think the Jets are going to be good. It's going to be a fun team to watch. I like watching Rodgers play when he's not playing against Dallas. So hopefully he has a great year and the Jets can probably be that team like Houston last year that kind of just comes up out of nowhere, which not really. They had high expectations last year, but hopefully Rodgers can just. I just want to see. Basically, I'm just gonna be honest. I just want to see anyone but Buffalo win the division. So I'm
Mhm.
hoping it's the Jets. So I was gonna try to kind of sugarcoat. No, I'm not sugarcoating. I hate Buffalo. I want the Jets to win the division. I'm glad Rodgers is back. Go beat Josh Allen 2 times a year. I'm looking
Yeah,
forward to it.
I agree. I hope Buffalo, dude, man, Buffalo finished last, injected into my veins. That would be. I would love
If
that. I
if
would love
Drake
every
May,
second of that.
oh my goodness, Drake May and the Patriots finishing like 2 games ahead of Buffalo,
But
I
yeah,
will be
Drake and the Patriots
insufferable.
finishes with like 5 wins. Buffalo finishes with 4 with a healthy Josh Allen. Oh,
I would
injected
be
into my veins, dude. I love it.
insufferable.
I'll never forget when Tyler Bass missed that field goal. I was like, and we saw all the Bills fans upset and crying. I was like, yes, just inject all that in my veins. I love that. I don't feel bad for any of them, especially
Yo,
when they take shots at Aaron Rodgers, because mostly it's the Bills fans that want him hurt again, because they know that if he's healthy, the Jets are better than Buffalo. Bills fans know that, and if Bills fans were legitimately confident in their team and not some blind faith after they lost Diggs and Gabe Davis, if they were legitimately confident in that team, they wouldn't have to root for an injury of an opposing quarterback if their team is really that good, because they would be able to beat the Jets with Rodgers. The fact that they've went 2-2 the last 2 years against the Jets when the Jets rolled out Zach Wilson, please,
and
please.
I don't care what anyone says. Hating is healthy. It is good for you. I am a Buffalo hater. I am a Philly hater until
Mhm.
I die. I want both of them to be bad. So Aaron Rodgers, please, please, I need you to beat Buffalo by 3 touchdowns both times you play them this year. That's all I
Yep.
need.
I would love that, dude. Buffalo screams 7-10. They just scream 7-10, 8-9. You go through their schedule, miss the playoffs. Bills fans are upset. Oh no, we missed our window. Super Bowl window, boxed up, boarded up, whatever the heck they do. It's over.
You
Window
hauled and
shut.
shipped to like Quebec, like it's never
Yeah.
happening. That's what I'm
Shipped to the
hoping.
CFL. Um, yeah, but I mean, look, and I think too, so far Rodgers just through OTAs. Again, it's only OTAs. I feel like he's proven a lot of people wrong. There's a lot of people out there. I mean, there's people I know that are non-Jets fans, some Bills fans, and they kept telling me when Rodgers returned to practice back in December, they were like, "Dude, he's gonna tear his Achilles again. He's gonna tear his Achilles again." And I'm like, "All right, let's see what happens." Never tore his Achilles back at practice, and up to this point, knock on wood, has looked very healthy. So I want to hear all those people that were saying, "Oh, dude, he's gonna get hurt. He's gonna get hurt." Somebody told me the other day, he's like, "Oh, I don't have to worry about your 40-year-old one-legged quarterback." I'm like, all right. I will. I don't have to worry about Chase Claypool and Marquez Valdez Scantling catching the ball in big games. You know what you have to worry about? You have to worry about them dropping the ball in big spots. So
I mean, are they
I'll
even?
worry about my 40-year-old one-legged quarterback, but you just need to worry about Chase Claypool and make sure to cherish every one of those 7 receptions he'll have in 17 games this year.
I mean, catching the ball is the worry number two. It's getting off the line or getting
Yeah,
on the field that they got to worry about. Like, are those guys even going to play? I
that's
mean,
true.
they're going to fake an injury when they see Sauce Gardner lined up in front of them.
Yeah,
I don't know if you remember.
dude.
Do you remember when Mark Sanchez, that old clip of Mark Sanchez lined up at wide receiver? I think it was Mark
Oh yeah,
Sanchez. That's
yeah.
Chase
That's
Claypool when
that's
Sauce
the Bills
Gardner's lined
receiving
up
core.
on him.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I remember
not
that.
worried about the Bills receiving core.
Neither am I. But yeah, no, yeah, it's good to see Rodgers out there. He also commented too about how he's got to win this. They've got to win this year. They're all in. He's got all the pressures on them. I totally agree. He's 100% correct. If the Jets don't have a successful season, if they don't win this year, if they don't make the playoffs, They're all out of here. So, he understands that pressure. He gets it. And hopefully he's healthy. And I feel like he's probably the front runner win comeback player of the year. Him or Kirk.
Absolutely.
I think, I mean, unless if the Jets make the playoffs and Rodgers is good, Rodgers will win it. But Kirk Cousins will be on that same trajectory as well. Kirk would have to outplay Rodgers by a pretty good margin. He would have to hope that the Jets kind of fall off. But yeah.
Yeah, I feel like the three that could win it, top of my head, is Rodgers, Cousins, and Nick Chubb. Like my
Yeah, Chubb. Good
early
point.
kind of votes for comeback player of the year.
Chubb might actually, based off of injuries, Chubb's probably had the worst injury.
100%. That was
So
bad.
if we're actually
That was
talking about like
very
true
bad.
comeback, it'd probably go to Chubb. I don't know. People hate Rodgers though. I don't even know if they'd give Rodgers comeback player of the year. Like they just hate him so much. I don't even know if they would give it to him. You make a good point, but Chubb probably does deserve it. That injury was brutal. That is way worse than a torn Achilles. Torn Achilles, torn ACLs, those things happen all the time. Chubb's
Yeah.
injury was just another level of brutal, but yeah. Anyway, moving on here from Rodgers, and then of course Dak, Bryce Young supposedly has looked good at OTAs. We've heard some reports, seen some clips of him doing pretty well. Again, it's only OTAs, and I would recommend to Bills fan or Bears fans, or oh my God, Bills, Bears, Panthers. Third time's the charm. I would recommend to those Panthers fans not overreact. Not saying Bryce Young's not going to have a good year, but I saw somebody the other day on Twitter say Bryce Young's MVP bet's not looking too bad right now. It will look very bad when you lose all your money. So, wouldn't recommend it. I think the Bryce Young stuff is, I think I kind of look at Bryce Young how I look at a lot of players is I don't know if he can be any worse than he was last year. I also don't know if the Panthers can be any worse than they were last year. It feels like they can only go up from here. So I think Bryce Young will be better. But to sit here and say that Bryce Young's going to go from 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions to like 30 touchdowns and 6 picks is just crazy talk, especially in May. So what are your impressions on Bryce Young supposedly looking pretty good?
Like you said, it's all in shorts and throwing on air. So
Yep.
it doesn't impress me. And it's not even just a Bryce Young thing. It's about anybody. I mean, if it was Dak throwing the ball in air, it doesn't move the needle. Like, it's great. You are doing walkthroughs, whatever the case is. You're on air, you're in shorts, no pads on, no defense. You should be looking good. If you're looking bad, well, you might have a long season. So the MVP talk is diabolical. So I don't understand where anyone's coming with that. But I mean, I do think he improves this year. Maybe 25 touchdowns. I think he could be a lot better, but not a 30 touchdown type of year, like 11, 12 wins. That is crazy. But again, I think last year was kind of the floor for Bryce Young and the Panthers. Like, you have to get better. So hopefully he does have a great year, though. I don't kind of hate to kind of see a guy drafted number one and just look very bad, especially when it's always going to be that talk of, oh, well, did the Panthers make a mistake? Should they have took Stroud? So kind of just hoping for success for Bryce Young. That's all.
Yeah, totally. I have nothing against Bryce Young. You want to see guys get drafted out. You want to see him pan out, especially in the situation he's in Carolina. That's an organization that has a lot going on from the top. David Tepper's got to be one of the worst owners in football. They gave Bryce Young nothing last year. As much as, you can make fun of Bryce Young and stuff like that, quarterback's always the first, kind of making or whatever point, always usually the first point of blame. But they gave him nothing last year. They didn't give him an offensive line. They didn't give him the coaching situation. Frank Wright is so washed. He is so past his time. They gave him. I knew. I once they hired Frank Wright, I knew that was not going to work. He's washed. He's not the same guy. Like coaches, schemes, they've figured him out. So yeah, the Frank Wright stuff. You fire anytime you have a anytime you have a quarterback, a rookie quarterback, and the coach gets fired within the first 2 years, you're doing such a disservice to that quarterback, let alone in his first season. You got to learn a new system now. Dave Canales, of course, is coming over from believe it's Tampa, I believe, right? Coming over there, gets a new opportunity. He got Deontay Johnson. They added Deontay Johnson. I like that the fact that they traded into the first round at add Xavier Legette. They've also got Adam Thielen still there. So there's some pieces. And yeah, last year was rock bottom. They were 2-15. They were the worst team in football. And they didn't have a first round pick until they traded in to the first round on draft night. So things can't get really any worse. They can only go up. They're probably still, though, probably a 5-6 win team, I would say, probably. Maybe if Bryce Young takes like a big leap, maybe they get to like
7.
I don't know.
But that's pushing it.
Yeah,
Like that's
it
really
is.
pushing it.
Yeah. It's you'd have to have Bryce Young would have to take a very large leap.
Yeah.
And I mean they added Robert Hunt to add him to the offensive line. So they did add some piece to the offensive line, but even then you would have to hope that the offensive line is almost miles better than it was last year. If it wasn't for the Jets offensive line, the Panthers offensive line probably would have taken home honors for the worst in football. But it's tough to be worse than an offensive line that had 13 different combinations in 17 games. So, yeah, maybe what 5 wins probably? I feel like the ceiling 7, floors. This floor is probably like 3 or 4. The floor is if Bryce Young. I don't even think it's a record. The floor for Carolina. The floor is if Bryce Young goes out there this year. He threw for 2,877 yards last year, at 11 touchdowns and 10 interceptions. The floor for Carolina is if Bryce Young goes out there this year and throws for 2,900 yards, 14 touchdowns, and 11 picks. It's like that's not improving. If you improve 3 touchdowns in like 100 or 30, or you improve like 3 touchdowns and 30 yards and you win 4 games, that's not improvement. I think you have to see what do you think you have to see for Carolina fans to feel confident on 20 touchdowns? You have to take that big of a jump, or can he get to like 18, 19 and maybe lower the interceptions like 3, 19 and 7?
I would say between 18 and 20. I know I just said 25, which is very outrageous. Like that is a humongous jump to. You said he had 11 touchdowns last year. Was that the case?
11. Yep.
To double your touchdowns. That's a lot. That's a huge jump. I'll probably say 18 to 20 touchdowns, maybe again 5 to 6 wins, which doesn't really feel like much. But I mean, when you're 2-15, anything is better. Like 3 to 4 more wins is a huge jump. But also, kind of without rambling, I mean, looking at their division now too, you're not even really guaranteed kind of 2 against Atlanta or 2 against New Orleans, 2 against Tampa. So that's tough. That's tough. I don't see 7 wins. I'm thinking 5. 5, but he throws about 18 touchdowns.
Yeah, you make a good point because last year they were. What did they finish in the division? Let me check. Last year they finished in the division. They were 1-5. Their only win was Atlanta. I think it was that like 9-0 rainy game that they won. So they were 1-5 in the division. It's not crazy to say they could be 1-5 again in the division because you probably go 0-4 against Atlanta and Tampa. And then maybe you split against New Orleans.
And that's a maybe because New Orleans is bad too. I feel like they've kind of been under the radar as far as just
they're I don't know what exactly they're trying to do with their receiving room, but whatever it is, it's ugly.
Yeah, it's pretty bad over there.
I mean, Rashid Shaheed and Cedric Wilson behind Chris Olave. I don't know if those guys are even 5th receivers on many teams. Like, I don't know about that. So, Saints are going to have to rely on Derek Carr going out there and having a big year and just hope that Alvin Kamara can do Alvin Kamara things when he's healthy. Although he didn't have a very good year last year. I mean, he was all right.
It was a decent year.
I should say. Yeah. Wasn't dominant Kamara, but he did also miss 4 games, I think it was. So
yeah.
NFC South, both Souths are shaping up pretty nicely. AFC South's going to be a lot of fun. NFC South should be fun with Atlanta and Tampa. And maybe you get New Orleans as that kind of annoying team that can mess things up and maybe make things interesting. If they hover around 500, they could still put themselves into the mix. But, yeah. I feel like I think like for Carolina's sake, I don't know if maybe the AFC West if you would put them into the division, like if there was another division out there to put Carolina into where they would have a better chance of winning, probably only be the other division would be the AFC West, right?
I don't even think then. I mean,
Yeah, because then you got to
well,
play Herbert twice a year, which
yeah,
they wouldn't
Herbert
beat Herbert.
twice,
Bryce Young's
and
never going
then
to outplay him. Mahomes twice.
Mahomes. I mean,
Who's going to cover
even the
Devontae Adams?
even the Raiders, they probably split with the Raiders,
Yeah.
just maybe, and then they'll beat the Broncos twice. So I
Zach
mean,
Wilson, Bryce Young.
let's. Okay, I don't even want to. That's gonna be a Thursday night matchup sooner here or later.
Yeah,
But
that screams Thursday night football. 6-3 Broncos win. Zach Wilson throws for 94 yards and somehow wins the game. And all these Broncos fans will be like, "Oh, Zach Wilson won." Yeah, give me a break. Zach Wilson won. Threw for 94 yards. Got the team into field goal position once.
94 yards is crazy. I think whichever team just turns the ball over less. Like if Carolina or if the Broncos manage to only turn the ball over 9 times, or Carolina turns it over 10, they're gonna win that game.
Yeah. It feels like that game's going to be whoever scores first. Whoever kicks the first field goal just wins.
Just trot out your field goal kicker for like a 65-yarder. Like
we better win. Hold on. I don't think they don't play them, right?
Not that I know of.
No, they do. They do.
Oh goodness.
They're at
At least it's
Denver
not a
week
Thursday
8.
night. At
No,
least it's not a Thursday night.
They flex it though, just for the people.
Yeah,
Just
maybe flex it out of the NFL. That's a USFL matchup.
Yeah, that is. Oh my god, dude! The Carolina Panthers schedule, there's a stretch where they don't leave. Never mind, take that back. Because they play New York and Germany, so it's not a home game.
Which
I was
New
going to
York?
say,
Are we talking about the
it looked like
Giants?
they had 4 straight home games. Yeah, the Carolina Giants. It counts as a Carolina home game.
Wait. You said we
The
get a Carolina and Giants
yeah.
Germany game, which is going to be at 9:00.
That's
on
that's
Sunday.
that's our payback for World War II. That's what a lot of people are saying.
Oh my goodness! There's no way they're doing this to us. The Giants are going to wear
Yeah,
their
9
throwback
a.m.
photo.
Giants, Panthers, Xavier Legette, Malik Neighbors, the Battle of the Cardio. And then, a week later, no, 2 weeks before that, you get the coveted Carolina-Denver matchup at Mile High. In Denver, little Zach Wilson, Bryce Young throwing it around the field. That'll be electric.
What week is that? What's the date? The exact date on that game?
The Panthers game,
Yeah,
Broncos game, October 27th.
October 27th, which might be around the time the NBA starts. So maybe go to a Nuggets game. Don't waste your time at a Broncos game.
Anything. Cricket.
Oh, that's gonna be bad. At least I mean,
The
at least we don't have to.
425 game. I don't know if that's going to be the premier CBS game.
It's a what game? No, there's no way. There's no way. There's no way.
Imagine Jim Nance. Welcome to, and this isn't Jim Nance's voice, but it's like, welcome to CBS Game of the Week. We got the 0-7 Panthers against the 0-7 Broncos. Zach Wilson and Bryce Young have combined this season for 5 touchdown passes thrown and 15 interceptions. It's going to be a battle for the ages. Fourth quarter, and we're still waiting for a team to get a first down. We've got the script. We've got the script in hand.
Oh, that game's going to end 2-0.
It might actually. Yeah, no, you know what's gonna happen? It's gonna be a repeat of Super Bowl 48 at MetLife. Zach's gonna
Oh
go to
my
take the snap.
goodness.
He's gonna go up to the line to say something. They're gonna snap it over Zach's head, and that's gonna be the end of it. Or Zach might just he might just fumble the snap.
The best bet is the lights just go off, even though it should probably still be daytime. But the lights just go
Yeah,
off in the stadium, and they just can't play the game.
yeah.
Or can we sim? You know, we can sim in Madden. Can we
Oh
just
yeah,
sim
yeah,
that game?
yeah.
Just
Press, just sim it. We should just sim it before the season starts. Just like do a coin flip and give each team their bye week.
literally, that's it.
Oh my god, that's gonna be brutal, dude. The Broncos are gonna be
You know,
so bad this year. I don't know if people are talking about how like they're gonna be so bad.
out of curiosity, I just want to see how much tickets go for that game. Let's
Oh,
check Ticketmaster.
let's see. According, jeez, there's no way.
Let's
I mean,
see.
that's a game where you spend you're you've got to be $20, $20 or more. No, it's got to be $20 or less. Shows
Okay.
vivid seats, $60 for nosebleeds.
All right. So you said that game was October 27th. Why
Man,
is okay? That's just parking. I was about to say, who's paying? Even then, who is paying $175 to park outside of Mile High Stadium? That
that
is
might be the best.
outrageous.
That might be the best spot to watch the game outside.
So you can leave quicker.
Yeah, just stay outside. Go off the crowd noise.
$76.
Go off of the
There's
non-existent crowd noise that'll be
there
there.
will there will be no crowd noise whatsoever. You probably can hear the dink off the goalpost outside
They're
the
gonna have to
stadium when
they're gonna have to pull COVID and they're gonna have to generate crowd noise through the speakers.
this is
They're gonna have
so
to
bad.
put cardboard cutouts in the stands to make it look busier.
$76 for this game. Well, I mean,
God, what are some other must-watch matchups? Let's see who else Carolina play.
you
You know
get the
what's
Saints in
sad?
Denver.
I'm sorry, Panthers fans. I was looking for some other matchups that could be put on Comedy Central, and I didn't even look at any other team. I just went right to the Panther schedule. Oh man.
Wow, this is bad.
They play the Chargers week 2.
Oh,
That
great.
could be bad. That is potentially be really bad. You know what's funny? Carolina's first 3 games, they're not like impossible. They play New Orleans, the Chargers, and in Vegas. Like honestly, if
New
Bryce
Orleans
Young
Chargers
is
in
better than he
Vegas.
was last year, they could go 2-1 there.
They could.
It's not crazy.
It's not
And then they have the
outrageous.
stretch of Washington, Denver, New Orleans, Giants. What is dude? I mean,
Are we talking about that? That might be enough to get to 6 right there.
I'm sold. 11 wins.
All right, you're gonna put your MVP vote in.
Putting my MVP vote in. 11 wins. Panthers are winning the NFC South. Kirk Cousins who? Baker Mayfield who? Bryce Young.
Oh,
Yes, sir. And yeah, I mean, New Orleans, they're irrelevant.
if
Carolina
you
will be in Super Bowl 59
well,
in New Orleans.
if you're a betting man and you probably put $10 on Bryce Young to win MVP, Panthers to win their division, and make the Super Bowl, not even win it, you will probably make enough money to pay for your kids and kids and kids to go to college anywhere they want
Yeah,
because you are going to be a rich man.
yeah. No doubt about that. I mean, if you bet 10, like the chances of probably spending $10 and winning on the we talked about earlier whether to spend $8 on the Raising Canes meal or tickets. It's like $10 Raising Canes, $10 bet on Bryce Young being good. Yeah, taking the Raising Canes 10
Go
times
with
out of
the
10.
raisin. Go with the Raisin Canes.
Now, if we were talking about $10 for Panthers to be relegated to CFL by 2026, then yeah. you're going to be a rich man. You'll be able to buy stock into the CFL franchise.
You might be able to buy an NFL expansion team.
You might be able to. The Wyoming Panthers. Bryce Young, first pick of the expansion draft.
Oh my goodness. Panthers fans, we don't mean any. We don't mean any,
harm.
malice.
Like I said, 11-6.
Oh, man.
11-6. This is the script. Panthers, Cardinals, NFC title game.
Oh.
AFC title game. Patriots, Broncos.
Okay.
We're going Zach Wilson, Bryce Young. Little did we know that Week 8 matchup will be a Super Bowl preview.
I don't know if there's enough multiverses. I don't think there is a multiverse
There's
or
not
a
enough
world,
galaxies for that.
yeah, where that would ever happen. I mean, just never.
Like,
never.
Just there's just not enough in this realm that we live in, or whatever we live in, a galaxy, whatever. Yeah, like you said, there's not enough. Even Star Wars, that wouldn't happen. Like a galaxy far, far away, another multiverse. Like, you would just never see that. That just doesn't happen. Good times. Any closing thoughts?
Raising Cane's don't sound too bad about now. I think that's about it. But I might buy some tickets.
Yeah. Raising Cane's Panthers tickets. Let us know in the comments below. What is your decision? It's a tough one. That's the sad part. Anyway, that'll do it. I'm going to go buy stock in the CFL franchise. That'll be the Carolina Panthers in a couple years. So I'm going to be a very rich man. Who knows? Maybe I will be their head coach. Wyoming Panthers, North Dakota Panthers. Panthers are Carolina. Days are over, and all you're going to be left with is the Charlotte Hornets, which is not good.
Not a win. Which is not a win either.
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. My gosh, there is nothing to look forward to as you wake up every day if you're a Carolina sports fan, and there is absolutely nothing to look forward to. I mean, you probably dread it. You're probably like, ugh, another day closer to football, or another day closer to basketball. I mean, the Charlotte Hornets, come on now. Jeez. Anyway, that'll do it. We'll be back here next week talking all things NFL, roasting the Panthers, whatever else comes up on the plate. Stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. As always, please like and subscribe. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.